The Fever had that one. The Fever had that game, man. They had it in the bag. They were in control. They had it. They had it. They had it. They just forgot how to play basketball.
Another video, and I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of people to blame for this.
Okay, this is wild. Indiana Fever fans are absolutely losing it tonight after that brutal loss. I mean, the game was totally winnable, the Aces looked shaky, struggling even, and yet somehow the Fever looked like they were actively sabotaging themselves out there. And right now, every single finger, they're pointing straight at Stephanie White. We're talking bad rotations, a shocking number of missed free throws, and absolutely zero point guard presence. It's all piling up, creating a massive headache for the team. But seriously, is this just plain bad coaching? Or is there something much worse going on here? Here's the question I want you to think about. Do you believe Stephanie White is intentionally holding this team back? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because we need to talk about this. Let's dive deep into that monumental collapse, because that's exactly where the blood pressure of every Fever fan watching spiked right through the roof.
They had the game won. They made 2 field goals in the fourth quarter, and they were both in garbage time. They went 9 minutes without a field goal. 9 minutes without a field goal, and shout out Lexi Hull for finally scoring one. Kelsey Mitchell took 26 shots for 0 assists.
Look, this game was never out of reach. For most of the night, Indiana legitimately had a chance to win this thing. They were rebounding better, they hustled harder in bursts, and the craziest part, Vegas wasn't even playing their best basketball. Ja Wilson, their superstar, was having what pretty much everyone is calling a straight-up off night. I mean, 13 points, 8 boards, 4 assists. That is not MVP level, not even close to it. And when your opponent's superstar is stumbling like that, when they're not hitting their usual stride, that's your golden opportunity to pound the paint, to go for the kill, to steal a win on the road. But the Fever, they absolutely flopped, harder than Ja Wilson's acting on defense, and it was painful to watch.
All W first team hasn't been exceptional in the playoffs. She was bad today. She was real bad today. Aerial Powers, look, I love her effort. Aerial Powers lost us that game. That is when the game ended. Like, there is 10 seconds to go in the third quarter, and Aaliyah Boston is standing wide open under the basket. Aerial Powers did not pass her the ball. And then Powers takes like 3-4 dribbles. Aaliyah's still wide open. And then eventually when she gets the ball to Aaliyah, it's a 3-second call. And then for some reason, Aerial Powers decides to front Jackie Young with 3 seconds to go, full court, and let Jackie Young run in a wide open layup. Suddenly, it goes from us being up 1 going into the fourth to down 3.
All right, get this. Here's the stat that should make every Fever fan just cringe. Indiana grabbed an incredible 39 rebounds, with a whopping 16 of those coming on the offensive glass. That's the kind of gritty hustle stat line you expect from a team that's locked in and ready to close out a tough game. In Cent, they completely wasted it. And why? Because they shot a horrific 25 for 72 from the field. Do the math? That's a pathetic 34%. Now throw in an absolutely abysmal 7 for 23 from deep. A shocking 30% from 3-point range, and the result is painfully simple. You just hand the game away, brick by brick. But wait, it gets worse. Don't even get me started on the free throws. They went a shocking 13 for 20. That's a mind-boggling 62%. Look, this isn't high school. This isn't AAU basketball. This is the WNBA, the professional league. Free throws are supposed to be the one thing, the only thing you can consistently count on. If you're a professional basketball player, free throws are literally your rent money. You show up, you cash in, no excuses, period. But Kelsey Mitchell, who's usually so clutch, she looked like she'd never seen a rim before, missing one after another, and you could practically feel the air being sucked out of the building every single time one clanked off.
Steph, close game late in the third, and then you guys really stalled on the offensive end. What did you see that they were doing, or that you guys were not doing well enough to keep up and score in that stretch?
Yeah, I mean, I thought we got a lot of good shots. Didn't make a lot of them. You know, we missed some opportunities at the free throw line, and then we got a little stagnant. You know, we were still in a good spot because we were getting stops until about middle of the fourth, and they went on that run. But look, I thought our energy was good. I thought our competitive spirit was good. At the end of the day, you know, you just look at the field goal mix and the free throw mix, and you know, it's a different ball game. And you know, Vegas is.
Now let's talk about coaching, because fans are absolutely roasting Stephanie White for this disaster, and honestly, after watching that game, she completely earned it. The rotations were an absolute mess, and here's where it gets wild. Natasha Howard gave them 5 points, 5 rebounds, and frankly 0 life or energy on the court, yet somehow she played long extended stretches like she was prime Candace Parker in her MVP form. Meanwhile, Odyssey Sims looked completely lost, turning the ball over constantly, looking hesitant, not pushing the tempo at all. So did White pull her quickly, like any smart coach would? Nope. She inexplicably left her out there, letting Vegas build momentum and take control. And get this, Lexi Hull, a warrior, was fighting through pain, dropping a double-double, diving for loose balls, playing like her leg didn't even matter, giving every ounce of effort. Did White feed her more opportunities? Ride the hot hand. Again, it's like the toughest, most impactful player on the roster was completely invisible to her own coach. And that's exactly where fans are starting to scream sabotage. Because when the players who are giving you absolutely everything get sidelined in favor of those who are clearly mailing it in, it doesn't look like some genius strategy. It looks like someone is deliberately tanking the team's entire vibe and chemistry. Vegas didn't even win this game with sheer dominance. You have to understand that. They won because Indiana literally handed it to them on a silver platter. Jackie Young dropped 25 points, and Chelsea Gray chipped in, sure, but this was not a beatdown where one team was just clearly superior. It was Indiana running full speed into a wall of their own making, time and time again. What about the turnover battle? Both teams had 15, which on paper should mean it's an even fight, right? But Indiana's turnovers came at the absolute worst times, momentum-killing mistakes that you could viscerally feel sucking the energy out of the arena. That's not just players being sloppy, that's a team completely lacking direction, completely adrift. And where does direction come from? You got it. Coaching. And this, my friends, is exactly where the conspiracy starts bubbling over. Fans are looking at Stephanie White and making a bold claim. She doesn't want Caitlyn Clark back on that court. Why? Because Clark changes everything. She completely rewrites the entire game plan. Clark forces the system to run through her. She demands the ball move differently. She requires that the team's entire identity be built around her revolutionary playmaking and scoring. And White? She clearly doesn't want any part of that. Think about it. Clark's injury timeline suggested she easily could have been back by now. We've seen players return from similar groin injuries in the same or even shorter stretches, but the Fever have kept her sidelined, consistently giving the same updates. Not ready yet, still recovering, over and over again. And fans are absolutely not buying it anymore. They're connecting the dots. They suspect White has somehow convinced the front office that Indiana is better without Clark, that the offense flows better when it doesn't revolve around one player. Except here's the brutal reality check. They're not better. They're not winning games. They're losing in embarrassing fashion while Clark sits on the bench and watches. That entire "we play better without her" excuse completely collapsed the very moment Vegas, even on a bad night for their star, still walked away with a comfortable double-digit win. Now let's zoom out and compare coaching philosophies, because this is crucial. Look at Becky Hammon, the Aces coach. She doesn't hide her stars, she doesn't try to clip their wings. She lets Aja Wilson play through mistakes while still holding the team accountable. That perfect balance, that trust in her stars, is exactly why Vegas consistently wins championships. But Stephanie White? She looks absolutely terrified of letting Clark back in and taking control of the offense. Instead, she'd rather run her rigid system with role players. It's safe, it's predictable, and it's unequivocally losing. This isn't just about X's and O's, folks. It's about the team's entire identity. Caitlyn Clark is in her second year now, not some wide-eyed rookie still learning the ropes. She is the face of the WNBA, whether the vets like it or not. She's the singular reason arenas sell out, why TV ratings spike to unprecedented levels, why casual fans tune in every single night, and somehow, her own coach is acting like the Fever are better off without her on the floor. That's not just bad basketball, that's genuine franchise suicide, pure and simple. And let's not forget the crucial locker room dynamics. Lexi Hull has consistently proven she's the true warrior of this squad. Tough, unselfish, relentless, all effort, and yet she's constantly not being utilized the way she absolutely should be. Natasha Howard, invisible. Sims, lost at sea. Aerial Powers showed flashes in her 11 minutes, but was never truly trusted with more playing time. Kelsey Mitchell, she dropped 21 points, yes, but then went completely missing when it mattered most in the clutch. That's not just on the players alone, you see. That's a coach who doesn't know how to push the right buttons, who can't get her team to execute. And here's the absolute kicker, the theory that's circulating. Some believe Stephanie White has actually told the front office something along the lines, if Caitlyn comes back now, we'll have to change everything. We'll lose our flow, we'll collapse. And management, they allegedly bought it. They let Clark sit, they kept her on the shelf, while the team demonstrably crumbled without her. That's not just questionable coaching, my friends. That's sabotage, plain and simple.
Asia's not gonna have 2 stinkers in a row. I feel like the Aces didn't even really play well tonight. They kind of handed the Fever that game, and the Fever kind of blew it, which makes me so sad. Obviously, you can never count out this Fever team because of what they accomplished, but now they have a very tough task if they want to make it to the finals. They have to win 1 game at home, and then they have to go back to Vegas and try to win a game 5 where it's both teams win or go home. And honestly, that's a super tough task going up a team like the Aces with a coach like Becky Hammon, a 2-time WNBA champion, who also coached in the NBA before coming to the WNBA. Like, it feels like she's already changed up the defense quite a bit, and it's really disrupted the Fever offense. It's just not looking good, and I feel like this was the game. This was the Fever's game. Asia had 3 points until the end of the 3rd quarter. She's not going to do that again. Nalissa Smith and Jackie Young cooked them. A lot of missed free throws and a lot of missed layups.
Let's zoom in even closer on the elephant that's been in the room this entire time. Caitlyn Clark's absence has completely, utterly exposed Stephanie White's so-called system. Without Clark bending defenses and dictating the pace, the Fever are basically just a team running around hoping Kelsey Mitchell bails them out with a miracle shot. And look, don't get me wrong, Mitchell has absolutely had her moments, but when the Aces know she's the only true offensive engine, it's like shooting fish in a barrel for them. Their strategy becomes simple. Clamp down on Mitchell, make the other players try to beat you, and suddenly, Indiana looks like a G League team desperately cosplaying as contenders. Clark's presence, though, it changes that entire mathematical equation completely. Defenses are forced to extend out to the logo, double team off-ball screens, and crucially, give up driving lanes because they're absolutely terrified of her insane range and passing vision. With her on the court, everyone eats, everyone gets better looks. Without her, you just saw it, Howard standing around doing nothing, Sims throwing the ball into the 5th row of the stands, Boston forced into incredibly bad positions, and Hull breaking her back for rebounds that literally go nowhere, leading to no points. This is where coaching truly matters, and here's what a smart coach understands. Clark is the system. She bends defenses, she dictates the entire pace of the game, she makes the entire league adjust to her presence. You build around that generational talent, you embrace it wholeheartedly. Instead, White seems utterly obsessed with proving she can win her way, with her system, and that singular obsession has turned the Fever into their own worst enemy. Now let's talk about how other elite coaches handle their stars. Becky Hammon, as we discussed, she lets Wilson be Wilson, allows her to play through mistakes. Gino Auriemma at UConn, he handed Paige Bueckers the keys to the offense from day one. Even Kim Mulkey, love her or hate her, knew Angel Reese had to be the undeniable centerpiece at LSU. These coaches don't try to downplay their best players, they lean into them, they maximize their impact. But Stephanie White, she's treating Clark like she's some optional luxury, like a 6th man you keep in your back pocket for emergencies. It's frankly laughable, and the fans see it loud and clear. Social media absolutely lit up after this game. Fire Stephanie White was trending across Indiana WNBA circles. Clips of those atrocious missed free throws were spliced together with White looking completely clueless on the sideline. Memes popped up of her physically holding Clark back with captions like "System first, win second." People are simply not buying the excuses anymore. What makes this whole situation sting even more is the absolutely crucial timing. Clark is in year 2. This is supposed to be her massive leap year, where she definitively shakes off the rookie narrative and establishes herself as the league's most dangerous, unstoppable guard. Instead, the headlines are all about whether her own coach is actively sabotaging her highly anticipated return. That's completely insane. The WNBA has been begging for a true face of the league, someone to capture national attention. They finally have one, and her own franchise can't figure out how to properly handle it. It's mind-boggling. Let's dive even deeper into this so-called sabotage theory. The argument goes like this. Stephanie White knows that if Clark comes back and immediately runs the show, her own rigid coaching style becomes completely irrelevant, exposed as someone who can't manage star power, can't adapt, and can't build a modern dynamic offense around generational talent. So instead of embracing the inevitable, she's allegedly convinced management that Clark isn't truly ready, keep her on the shelf, ride the team game narrative, protect her own job at all costs. It sounds absolutely wild, a Hollywood script even, but the evidence, the circumstantial evidence, just keeps piling up. Clark's recovery timeline lined up perfectly with the start of the playoffs. Fans saw her at shoot-arounds, taking light shots, looking incredibly mobile and agile. She wasn't limping around in a boot. She wasn't bedridden in agony. She looked undeniably close to being cleared. And yet, every single update from the team was the exact same. She's progressing but not ready. Convenient, right? Almost too convenient. Meanwhile, Indiana kept losing in the most predictable, frustrating fashion. White's offense stalled out, her role players looked utterly lost, and Vegas didn't even need a peak Asia Wilson to dismantle them convincingly. If you're ownership, you cannot look at that situation and honestly say, yeah, this is working exactly as planned. No, you look at that and you immediately ask, where in the world is Caitlyn Clark? And when the answer keeps circling back to the coach again and again, that's when fans definitively start connecting those dots. Now, some defenders of White will argue she's just being cautious, that she genuinely doesn't want to risk Clark's long-term health. That's a fair point, until you remember this is the playoffs. This is the moment every competitor lives for, the reason you endure all those grueling practices and long seasons. If your franchise player is cleared by medical staff and wants to play, you let her play. Period. That's what true competitors do. That's the ethos of a winning franchise. And Clark, she's arguably the most competitive player in the entire league. Do you honestly think she's sitting out by choice, willingly? Please, she would tape her own groin together with duct tape and limp onto the floor if she had the option. That's just who she is. The truth is, White appears to be a pragmatic, risk-averse coach. And while that approach works when you're managing a roster of grinders and role players, it completely falls apart when you're blessed with a generational scorer who thrives on calculated risk and audacious play. Clark's logo threes, her no-look passes, her high-tempo drive, they're not safe, they're disruptive, they're breathtaking, and they're game-changing. And that's exactly why opposing defenses crumble and panic against her. By keeping her sidelined, White isn't just being cautious, she's effectively neutering the very weapon that makes Indiana special, that makes them a threat. And that, my friends, is why the backlash from the fan base is so incredibly loud and furious. Fans aren't dumb. They know missed free throws ultimately cost this game. They know the Fever had ample chances to win and blew them, but they also know this, unequivocally with Clark on the floor, Vegas doesn't get away with a sloppy, uninspired night. With Clark on the floor, the Aces panic when their MVP has a dud because they know Clark will take over. With Clark on the floor, Indiana has a legitimate fighting shot to win this series. Without her, they're absolutely toast. Period. This brings us chillingly to the future. If the Fever bow out like this, with Clark sitting passively in street clothes while her team collapses around her, ownership has an enormous season-defining decision to make. Do you double down on White's rigid, uninspiring system and risk completely alienating the league's most marketable, game-changing star? Or do you cut ties with the coach and immediately find someone who actually knows how to maximize Clark's unparalleled talent before it's too late and she potentially looks elsewhere? History unequivocally says you pick the star. Coaches are by and large replaceable. Generational players, they are absolutely not. White might genuinely think she's protecting her system, but what she's really doing, whether she realizes it or not, is fast-tracking her own pink slip. Because when Clark eventually voices her inevitable frustration, and you know deep down that day is coming, the front office will not side with the coach. They will side with the player who sells out arenas, who shatters TV ratings, who literally carries the entire league's commercial viability. This isn't just about the Indiana Fever. The entire WNBA is watching this unfolding drama. Other teams are already licking their chops, silently hoping the Fever implodes so they can potentially make a play for Clark down the road. That's how incredibly valuable she is as an asset. You simply do not gamble with that kind of generational talent. And yet, White looks like she's doing exactly that, whether it's intentionally or simply through sheer stubbornness and an outdated philosophy. The irony is absolutely brutal. Stephanie White was actually praised as Coach of the Year caliber not too long ago. People said she completely turned the Fever around, made them competitive again, gave them much needed structure, and in some ways that's genuinely true. But structure only gets you so far, especially in the playoffs. At some point, you need to unleash you need to let chaos work in your favor, embrace the unconventional, and if White simply cannot do that, if she refuses, then she's not the coach who will ever take Indiana to a championship. She's the coach before the coach who does. That's precisely why fans are now calling this outright sabotage. Maybe it's not some evil intentional plot, maybe it's just ego or fear or a deeply outdated coaching philosophy that can't evolve. But the effect is undeniably the same. Clark is sidelined, the Fever are losing in embarrassing fashion, and the fan base is absolutely furious, boiling over. So where does this end? If Indiana crashes out of the playoffs like this, with Clark sitting there in street clothes while her team spectacularly collapses, expect the noise to get absolutely deafening. Expect national talk shows to rip White to shreds. Expect social media to demand immediate answer. And expect Clark herself to eventually drop a subtle, perfectly timed comment that will light the fuse on a full-blown inferno. Because true competitors do not, under any circumstances, sit quietly forever. And Caitlyn Clark is the ultimate competitor. The Fever have one, and only one, clear choice if they want to avoid a full-blown meltdown and secure their future. Put Clark at the absolute center of everything. Build around her, trust her completely, unleash her unparalleled talent, and if White simply can't or won't do it, then find someone who can, and do it quickly. Because wasting Clark's prime years with safe, uninspired coaching isn't just bad strategy, it's a catastrophic, unforgivable act of sabotage. So there you have it, folks. Stephanie White is officially in the hottest seat imaginable, and Fever fans are unequivocally done making excuses. The numbers don't lie, the eye test doesn't lie, and those conspiracy theories, they suddenly don't sound so crazy anymore, do they? Indiana has a generational star on their hands, a literal gold mine, and if her own coach won't unleash her, then trust me, somebody else absolutely will. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more breakdowns just like this.